Hey, I want to take a couple of minutes today and just talk to you about writing literature reviews. Now, I've posted some information for you online about this, but as you get into writing up your first draft of your literature review, I think there's some things that you should know, some tips that if you think about these as you put this together should help you out a lot. I'm going to cover 5 things. First of all, when you're writing a literature review, remember that it's a literature review, not a literature dump. So we don't want literature dumps. And what I mean by that is sometimes people will turn in a draft and it will have a paragraph will start and it'll say, in the article whatever, it says this. Next paragraph, in the article this, it says this. Next paragraph, in the article this, it says this. And paragraph to paragraph, they're just dumping the literature to me. So we don't want a literature dump, which leads me to number 2. When you're writing a literature review, tell me a story. The literature should actually take you through and weave you through the story of whatever your research topic is. So use your literature review to tell me a story about what research has been done on your topic and all of the tangents that go with it. Number 3, by this point in time, in your literature review, your APA documentation should be perfect. Even in this draft, your APA needs to be perfect. It's not that hard to get information on how to do in-text citations and your references at the end. Make sure your APA documentation is perfect. Number 4, don't get too cute. I've talked to students about this a lot of times. I don't need you to try to impress me with big words because I know the big words. I learned a new one today, pedophagy, but I don't need to use it unless I need to. So don't get too cute when you write it. Just, again, going back to number 2, just tell me the story. Let me know what the literature says. Number 5, and this is really kind of basic, just think about what you know. What do literature reviews look like? You've seen related dissertations. You've reviewed literature reviews from the MSU faculty. You know what literature reviews look like, what they should sound like. So if yours doesn't look and sound like that, you're probably doing it wrong. So I just want to give you one last tip and tell you a story on how I wrote my literature review. I had the literature, and this was back in the day before we had things like Zotero or Evernote or any of these things to try to put together and catalog all of our literature. And so I actually had like 4 3-inch binders like this that had the printed out articles, and I had highlighted in them, and then at the time I had a student worker who typed up all the highlighted things, and then I cut out the pieces, cut out the quotes, and sat in front of a big old table and kind of tried to put them in the right order. What I did is, when I wrote my literature review, besides finding the literature like that, I wrote my story first. I had read everything. I knew what I had hoped the literature would say. So I actually sat down and I wrote my entire literature review. I wrote the entire story without any citations whatsoever in it. Once I had written the story and what I knew about the topic and what the research told me about it, then I went back and I plugged my sources into my literature review. That was how I handled mine. A lot of people don't like doing it that way because you have to really know your stuff before you can start typing. But that's one way to do it. That's what I did. But again, don't write me a literature dump. Tell me a story. Make sure your APA is perfect. Don't get too cute. Just think about what you know and apply it. You've seen this stuff. You know what it looks like. Make sure that yours is looking like what you've seen, because if not, it's probably wrong.